Hello class, welcome to our studies in the poetry and wisdom literature of the Hebrew Scriptures. I'm Dr. James Miller, your professor, and I'm looking forward to spending this quarter together with you. We're going to look at a little narrow range of writings in a much larger book. So you'll notice the second video in this week's class is a kind of a big picture view of the whole Bible and how it's shaped. But when we get to the wisdom literature, we're looking at five little chapters or books out of the 66 that are in the Bible. And these are a fascinating series of books. Let me give you a little background on myself. I am a pastor and a professor. I've been a pastor for 30 years and a professor for maybe 20 of those 30. I've taught at 3 different schools and currently in the middle of doing some studies in Christian literature with you, and looking forward to that. I have 4 college degrees, which is more than anyone needs because I'm a nerd by trade. I got a bachelor's degree from the University of Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley in philosophy, and I have a master's of science in the philosophy of science from the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. I have a master's of divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary, that's pastor school, and I have a doctorate from Fuller Theological Seminary. So I've spent more time in school than anybody needs, and I like to read and I like to write. Published a few books and love teaching classes. So that's me. Please watch the next video in the series to get an outline of the Bible, and then when we hone in on the wisdom literature, we're looking at 5 books that were probably written about 1,000 years BC, 1,000 years before Jesus. And this is right around the time of King David's reign. And David in Israel's history is kind of their best king. They look back on this season as the golden age, the best part of their history. When David is king and then the kingdom passes to Solomon. And in that time period, there are these 5 pieces of literature that fall somewhere around here that capture a season and a mentality in the Hebrew history. And what's important to us about that is it tells us a lot about how the Hebrew scriptures describe the human relationship with God. And so it tells us something about our relationship with God and how the Bible says our relationship with God is going to be. And they're also very earthy. They're very practical. They talk about the lived experience of human beings here on this earth. And so they're fun to read and they're beautiful for those reasons. The 5 books are Job, which is the name of the main character in the story, and it's a story of suffering. It's a man who loses everything he owns. His life is going very well, and then his property is destroyed, and his house is destroyed, and his family dies, and he gets sick, and his friends gather around him to give him advice and tell him it's his fault. And it deals with that big question of why do bad things happen to good people if there's a God out there? Secondly, we're going to look at the Psalms. And the Psalms are the poetry of the Hebrew Scriptures. And many of them are prayers directly to God. And they capture a full range of human emotions. Some of them are angry, and some of them are happy, and some of them are sad, and some of them are bitter. And we get to see some of ourselves in the emotions of the Psalms. Many of these are written by King David. Thirdly, there's the book of Proverbs, which is attributed to Solomon, David's son. And these are a collection of wise sayings as from a father to a son. And they're not in any particular order. They're kind of scattered all over the place, but a lot of them talk about wisdom and how to live a wise life. Then fourthly, we have the book of Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is a very deep philosophical book that wrestles with the meaninglessness that many people experience in this life. It wrestles with the struggle of feeling like your work doesn't mean anything and that you're striving hard but getting nothing out of it. And so it's a good book to read when you're depressed and it's raining outside. And then fifthly, the book Song of Songs, which is sometimes called the Song or the Song of Solomon, because this one is also attributed to Solomon, is a book of erotic poetry between a man and a woman, 2 lovers writing to each other. And we'll talk about why that made it into the Bible. But those are the 5 books, and that's what we're going to look at through the course of this quarter. The The thing to think about first when we come to the wisdom literature is, why is this included in the Hebrew Scriptures? Because the Hebrew Scriptures have the books of the law, which have 600 different commandments about how to live your life, and then they have the history of the Hebrew people and how they encountered God and where God led them. And then right in the middle of that are these 5 books of wisdom and poetry. And we should probably ask, why are these in here? Why did they include these? What do these have to do with anything? And this is, I think, a beginning of an answer. Some religions out there just deal with mystery and the sense that life is kind of a wonder. And maybe there's something you can do with your life to come to peace with existence itself. And that would be like Buddhism. Buddhism is one of those sort of mysterious religions that deals with the fact that we have this transient experience of suffering and pleasure and a desire to escape it. Some religions are primarily just about laws, about rules, about how you should and should not live your life. And I would say Islam is a lot like that. When Muslims bow down to pray 5 times a day, if you've ever watched this, before they stand up, you'll see them look to one side and then to the other. And they believe themselves to be talking to an angel that stands on each side of them. And one angel is recording all of their good works, and one angel is recording all of their bad works. Because in the end, they get into heaven if there are more good works than bad works on the scale. And that's Islam. Well, Judaism and Christianity are very different than that. These 2 religions are about the experience of God's people when God reveals himself on the earth. It's about the creator of the universe stepping down into time and history to say, hey, here I am. And of course, Christianity is the fulfillment of the Jewish faith. Jesus is the Jewish Messiah who comes and fulfills all that is before him. So in a sense, Christianity was not supposed to be a new religion. It was the fulfillment of Judaism. It still is Judaism in a way. But because there was a split between Jewish people who believed and those who didn't, we talk about them as though they're different religions. Judaism and Christianity are about encountering the living God who steps out into time and history, both in the events of the Bible thousands of years ago and today. Christianity promises that we can experience the real God intervening in our lives today. And we'll talk about what that means as the course goes on. What the wisdom literature does is it captures all of the emotions and feelings of the experience of encountering God. So when we encounter God, we have questions. What's the purpose of life? What should I do with my life? Why is there suffering? We have the experience of love of God and being loved by God and loving one another and the love between a man and a woman. And the wisdom literature captures that too. It captures struggles that we face and questions about wisdom and sex and meaning. It's all wrapped up in these 5 little books. And so what I love about the wisdom literature is it captures the real human experience. It's not pretend, it's not putting on a show, it's not just religion for religion's sake. It's the real lived human experience of normal everyday people who encounter this incredible God who steps down into their lives and reveals himself. So that's what we're going to look at in this course as we look at the wisdom literature. So in week 1, after this lecture, there are 2 more. One gives an overview of the whole story of the Bible, and it's a short video, but make sure you understand the whole story of the Bible because the wisdom literature fits in a bigger story. And then there's a longer lecture about wisdom itself, because this is the wisdom literature. And I want us to think about what wisdom is and where it comes from and why, for instance, King Solomon was praised for his wisdom. So that's what we're going to do this week. Thanks for joining me in this class. I look forward to getting to know all of you and reading your responses and interacting with you. Please reach out to me and let me know if you need any help or if you have any questions. I look forward to interacting with you as the course goes. Thanks for tuning in.